All right, on the count of 3, let's all say welcome to Raising Height. Okay? 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Raising Heights.
What's your name?
Lila.
What's your name?
Jackson.
I'm Tori.
I'm Zach. Jackson and Lila participated in DAAA,
Oh, what does it stand for?
Dwarf Athletic Association of America.
I got a medal in soccer, basketball, track, football, and that's all.
Hey, Lila, what did you compete in at DAAA?
Soccer, basketball, track.
There.
And what was your favorite sport?
Track.
What kind of shoes did you wear for track?
My running shoes.
Like your pink ones that make you fast, right?
Yeah.
Visit DAAA.org for more information. We'll see you guys in San Diego competing.
San Diego 2025.
All right. Stay tuned for the rest of the podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Raising Heights. We just had our guests on, our children, Josiah,
Chillins.
Lila, and Jackson.
They were very excited to show off their medals and what they got at DAAA.
Yes.
I wore my medal through that whole thing. It was a missed opportunity of a joke. I totally forgot I was wearing it.
I did see you wearing it, but
Yeah.
I didn't. It was too chaotic to point it out.
It's too chaotic, but anyway, I just wanted to feel a part of it.
Peak and Pit.
Peak and Pit. I'm going to do my pit first so I can end on a high note here, but my pit is Josiah had his tonsils out last week. We're on day 9 now, but he had his tonsils out last week, and we're so blessed because it has been really easy. Like his recovery, the surgery, everything went really well, but he doesn't communicate as well as Lila did. And so it's been a little bit harder to you want to have grace.
Yep.
Because he's 2
Yep.
and he just had surgery. But when you're like demanding things from me, yelling at me, it's a little harder to have that grace.
He's a fairly demanding child.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Should we just pause this?
You go do it. Just tell him to go play in their room. They're all fighting over the medals right now on the stairs. You can hear them clanging together. Bless it.
Yeah, Josiah is a
Yeah, so just 2 years old, you're kind of like, at what point do I parent? At what point do I give grace? It's been kind of hard to distinguish with him because it's like he did just have surgery, but also you can't yell at me like this.
Yeah.
So.
You don't want to establish bad habits.
Yeah. And we're on day 9, which they say like 6 to 9, 6 to 10, 5 to 10. Like, I don't even know. There's like such a wide range where kids can kind of regress in their recovery because the scabs fall off. So we might be there. Who knows? Like, we don't know. His breath, though, also.
Yeah.
Woo! If you guys have ever had a kid with a tonsillectomy, wow. The breath is like another level. And he's 2 and drools a lot. So it's stress. I have to change every 5 seconds because I smell like a tonsillectomy.
Yeah. So that's a intense pit. What's your peak?
My peak this week. We've had a lot of good things this week. Honestly, it's kind of a pit and a peak, but this morning, and I hate to make this about the weather because we always do that, but church this morning, we just had a nice little thunderstorm roll through Vancouver, and I live for a good storm.
Yeah, we don't get those as much out here. If you live in
Also another peak.
Yeah.
I'm finishing the Bridgerton series, so if anyone out there has seen the Netflix series Bridgerton, you should go read the books because they're way better. Yeah. And I am on the last book. I'm on Gregory's book, and that's been really fun to just relax and listen to a good book. Also, Ginger and Jeremy Volo, I hope I say their last name right. They were having this whole discussion on their podcast about, does it count? Like, can I say I read a book if I listen to it on an audio tape?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So my argument is absolutely. If not, I haven't read a book in 2 years because I've listened to them all in audiobooks. But they were having a whole debate on social media about it. I'm like, no, it has to count.
Yeah, you're reading a book. There's a story there, and you're following a story, and
you can't do anything else. Like, I can clean the house, so I can be productive and do laundry and do all this other stuff, but I can't do anything else. I can't have a conversation.
Yeah,
I can't read something else. Like, you're tuned in. Like, you have to listen.
Yeah.
To be able to absorb it. So I'm like, that's kind of the same as sitting somewhere and reading, but now I just get to be more productive. And
no, totally. I totally think you can count that as reading a book.
But that's been a peak. I've loved that series. I'm kind of sad it's over for me.
Kind of ready to not have a conversation with you and then realize halfway through your headphones are in.
And I'm just trying to get it out, babe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you just don't hear me, and then you look up and you're like, oh, you're talking?
That's not true. I can hear. Well, and that was a pit though too. When we went to Baltimore, I left my AirPods, or I think my AirPods got in the laundry somehow. I don't know, but either way, I lost my AirPods in Baltimore, and so I went a week, or not even a week. It was barely a week without headphones.
4 days.
I need my headphones,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how dependent I was on those things.
Yeah.
What was your pit?
My pit. Well, traveling with the kids was kind of tough this time around.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. Or
LPA,
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, LPA living in a hotel for a week, and they definitely they rock it the first hour of the day, and maybe the last hour, and maybe an hour somewhere in the middle. But then when you're not on your normal nap schedule and you're very stimulated and everything, it could be exhausting. I was busy, so that was probably a little pity.
Yeah.
But then peak obviously was Baltimore with the kids competing and being so excited about everything and doing really well, and no one got nervous or cried or gave up. Lila participated.
Everyone competed.
She wasn't overwhelmed. Josiah loved it, I thought, watching. So yeah, that was probably my peak. My pit was traveling with them was tough, but then the peak was also traveling with them and watching them.
I know we just did a whole episode on traveling with kids, and I feel like that's kind of what we're gonna do today, is redo that entire episode.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk.
I feel like you learn something new on every trip that you take with your kids.
Yeah.
And this one was Jackson and Lila are at the point where they can rally. They really can. They can, they can sit on a plane and they get to watch their movies and just Lila did her makeup. So cute.
Well, that portion of it, Lila can rally, but then living in the hotel for a week, Lila, I felt like.
Well, honestly though, too, I feel like it was Jackson. Jackson's kind of our true blue,
True blue.
Pretty easy, going,
Yeah.
Just there's not a lot that you have to do to get through to him. And Baltimore, he struggled.
I think he was just overstimulated
and tired. And we were in the hospital. We were in the hotel room, and there were multiple times where I had to be stern with him, which I always get a little offended because I just don't get angry at Jackson very often. And so then I get super offended when I have to say things to him multiple times and then get angry. Because
he knows better. We know that he knows better.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of those moments. And, Zachary is VP of DAAA. And so for a large portion of the trip, you were working and I was solo parenting it. Thank God for our friends Lisa and Otis. I honestly don't think that I could have gotten through that trip without Lisa.
Are you gonna go to San Diego?
I need to forget about Baltimore before I can even think about San Diego.
LPA is fun, but it's tough. It's a long week. It's an expensive week, but also you're out of your routine. You're eating strange foods. There's not a lot of structure. It's go, 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 stimulating. Yeah. Constantly talking with people. And for our kids too, everyone wants to talk to our kids. And I think that's where
I think I get a little, I think I'm probably too hard on myself maybe, but there is this aspect of LPA for me personally that, you talk to these people all year long and then you have 1 week to connect with other moms or other women, other kids. You have this very short amount of time to connect with them. And I don't want like my parenting to be what people remember when I'm like mad at our kids and giving them a talk in the corner, because I won't shy away from that. I won't shy away from like disciplining our kids in public, no matter where we are. If you're being disrespectful, I'm going to call you out on it.
Your Tori does great on that.
But so that's hard. That's hard when you're like in this place where there's all these expectations about making connections and talking and like,
first impressions.
And I'm over here yelling at my kid because he just smacked some other kid down on, you know what I mean? Like, so that was, I think, difficult for me, but also we should backtrack a little bit, because before we went to Baltimore, we got to go to D.C.
Yes.
And that was so much fun.
Well, I've never been, and it was amazing.
Like they're like Baltimore and DC, I've like honestly looked at them as two completely separate trips because they feel that way.
Yeah.
But we went to Washington D.C. and had a blast.
Yep.
I could have been there all week. Our kids were great. I felt, because we were together in that too. It was like me and you. It wasn't just me. It was like me and you going to all these places. Washington D.C., so much history, so much cool things. We got to tour the White House.
Yeah.
Hi.
That was awesome.
I didn't like, I am an idiot and didn't know that you couldn't just do that. Like, I thought you just did that, you know, like, I don't know. I had no clue that it was such an honor to be able to go and tour the White House.
Yeah. We got a private tour from the White House.
Yeah.
A connection
so cool.
with John Hopkins and DAAA got us that tour.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
We're so grateful to the people who made that happen, because that was
felt a little bad for the Secret Service guy that took us
the
around.
woman that was with us. She was so sweet, but our kids were like,
they were good for like the first
they didn't care
third.
that they were in the White House. They were like, we're hungry, it's hot.
Yeah, the tour was at like a 1:30. It wasn't super ideal, but it was awesome. But
so cool.
Yeah, I felt bad for him because they didn't want to hear about all the paintings. I wanted to hear about.
We
all the
wanted
paintings.
to hear about every like this guy that gave us a tour. He probably like you could point to a knickknack on the wall and he knew what it was.
He was great.
He was so good, and I felt bad because our kids were not interested in that knickknack on the wall, and so he was like, "Do I stop? Do I keep going?" And Zach and I are like, "Just go. Just like, who cares if they're screaming? Who cares what they're doing?"
It was kind of nice though, because we went the same day or the day before was the debate.
Yeah.
So I did feel like the White House was a little empty.
Yeah.
You know,
I was talking to your grandma about
the pressure.
that.
Well, the pressure was a little off. You know, no one like President Biden wasn't in the Oval Office going, "What's that screaming down the hallway?"
So true. So true. Well, I was talking to your grandmother about it though too, and the fact that we got in. A lot of times they'll have tours like that, and then the last minute they'll get canceled because something's happening at the White House.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we got to go, I told her, I'm like, I think it was because everyone was at the debate. That's the only reason why
I do feel like
in.
The pressure was off, and like there's everyone was gone.
Everyone was gone.
There's nothing. Well, even the guy that set us up for us, like because everyone's gone, they might be doing some construction. So maybe something could come up. And he was telling me when it's the White House, and
you never know.
Yeah, you never know, but be there by 12:30 and let's see what happens.
And it was awesome. So, we were there, and gosh, that was just like just looking back on that whole experience, it was such an honor to be there. And I had to bite my tongue a couple times. There was a couple jokes that I would have loved to make, but I was like, "Be cool, Tori."
We didn't do that though.
So we did Washington D.C. also, and that was
being in the White House though. Regardless of who's president, what administration, it's a United States historical building.
Can I talk about? Am I allowed to talk about anything? I know there's one thing I'm not allowed to talk about, but can I talk about? Yeah. There's this room that you go in, and I didn't know this, but every president has their official place setting.
Yeah.
I could have sat in that room for hours. It's just a room dedicated to presidential place settings all the way back to George Washington. Dishes. Like cups and saucers, and they all design their own. Yeah. I think. I don't know if they actually do, but like supposedly they all design their own. And watching what it looked like back when, I want to say, George Washington all the way to President Biden. Yeah. I mean, the evolvement of these settings, I could have sat in that room all day long.
That was really cool.
And the library, oh my gosh, there's so much history there that...
watching, you can see we went down into the basement and seeing the burn marks from the War of 1812 when the White House got burned down. Mm-hmm. That, for me, was probably super cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It was such an honor.
Yeah.
And then so we got to do all of this traveling in Washington D.C., did a ton of history.
Yep. Read a ton of plaques.
Went to the Washington Monument. We went to the Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial.
Which were very cool. Lincoln Memorial, very cool.
Smithsonian.
So seeing all that was awesome, and then we went to Baltimore.
But also our kids were great for that. Our kids were so good during that time.
The White House tour, they got a low.
The White House, okay, yeah, you're right. But I mean, Washington D.C. as a whole, I felt like it was so much fun.
Well, Washington D.C. too was a jam. Like, at least in our experience, airport.
Everyone was so
people,
kind.
Clean. The parts we saw, don't come at me, but like the parts we saw were very clean, and again, the people, I don't think we had a bad interaction with a person.
I think we were really I know I was really nervous because everyone was kind of like, stay in these perimeters, don't go outside. And maybe I never went outside of those perimeters, but we were there for 4th of July and I felt safe and welcomed. And
I went out of the perimeters, like out of the Baltimore downtown area a couple times. And like, I was still like, this is fine. Like it's a little run down in places, but at least where we were, I'm sure, every city has its issues, but
right. Well, I don't know. Lisa and I had that conversation though, too, because I think I know what part of town you were talking about. And we had that conversation too about how sometimes I feel like people just live more simple. They live more small, simple townhouse. Like, I think a lot of people could look at that and be like, "Ooh, that's like, stay away from there." But it's like, no, they're sitting on their front porch. Their kids are playing out front. Like, leave them alone. That doesn't mean anything.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So, anyway, it was a good. White House was good. Washington D.C. So cool. Now we can say we've done it.
I would go back to Washington D.C. though. I would go back and read 20 more plaques.
Oh, I would read every plaque.
Like, we didn't even touch where the White House was. We never went on that side of town until we went to the White House. But there's so much stuff over there.
Yeah, huge museums and everything, huge buildings.
And we only went to one Smithsonian, and we didn't
go to Fort McHenry in Baltimore either.
Yeah,
that's where the Star
Spangled
Spangled Banner was written, or that part of the war.
We were talking about that, and we never did.
Yeah.
But Baltimore, so then now fast forward. So then we rented a car, drove over to Baltimore, did the LPA thing. And it did get, like, LPA is so, I love LPA. It's so much fun, the connections that you make with people. And,
I do have a new appreciation for it now that I'm older.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's like, you're on the other side of it now. Like, you're kind of content with where you are. And I hope at least in what you're doing. So LPA might have a different meaning for you.
Totally. Watching, like, we met a couple people from back in my day that now have kids.
Oh, yeah.
Or reconnected with people that now have kids with dwarfism. That was cool. So I got a kick out. I also feel old, though. I'm like 34. Just watching, like, DAAA, for example. Like, I didn't really go to LPA. We met when I was 21, 20. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really experience LPA through most of my 20s, got married. We went to like Boston or whatever, but we didn't experience LPA.
Right.
But now there's a whole generation of kids in their 20s, and I like kind of miss that part. So I do feel kind of old when I go back there, but it's still, I think it's great. I love that our kids enjoyed it. Reminds you why you do it.
Honestly, I think that watching Lila at LPA was the best part of LPA. I mean, watching her make connections with girls that like I didn't know them. I didn't say like, oh, here's so-and-so, go play. She like, she loves Cece and Kate Hamill. Like, they are just the bee's knees to her. And so I was so grateful to them all week because they hung out with her. She met new girls because of them, and she just like was a social butterfly. I'd go to the room to like lay down for a minute, and she was, when we go back down with my friends.
When she says that, it's so
loved
cute.
It.
Jackson though too, I felt like Jackson made more friends with other boys that had dwarfism versus like just hanging out with the average height, which is
it's because in the past it's been like, we'll look around the room and find Jackson with all the average height siblings in the back playing football, and we're like, dude, you like. I
feel like he made some connections this time around and was like, hey, what's up? And
I think the sports helped that a lot,
and that's where I made all my friends in LPA. Like, you met on the sports field, and then you went from there. So
But he also, though, I think was pretty tired because he wasn't as
Yeah.
into the sports this year as he was last year.
I think he was into the soccer, and then the basketball got a little. Yeah, because you stay up until 10 o'clock, wake up at 6 in the morning, go, go, go.
And he's like, go, go, go.
Yeah.
Like he is playing hard in the hallway with the boys. Like,
so he was exhausted by the end of the week.
Exhausted. Yeah. And so there was and I missed all of football, which I'm so mad about. But it was hard because, and this is nothing against LPA or DAAA or Baltimore or anything, but the facilities that the football and soccer were hosted in were not conducive to kids. Like they just were super hot and super crowded.
Yeah.
So I could only hang out for 15 minutes.
I picked those facilities.
I know you
by the
way. Next year, let's get one with air
It's
conditioning.
tough because you try to find,
100%.
now DAAA has gotten so big, you have to do, the whole day sports, not these half days for some of our sports.
And you have to have multiple fields.
Well, it's finding multiple fields and it's finding indoor facilities.
Right.
So if anyone has connections in San Diego with indoor fields, like a facility
100%.
that has multiple fields, well, honestly, San Diego's great weather. So never mind.
I know. San Diego could probably be outside.
Yeah.
It'd be fine.
So some of these cities, so it's finding those facilities because you don't want weather. Right before we got there, Baltimore and Washington D.C. was going through the biggest heat wave ever, and we would not have been able to do any of our sports, if that happened and they were outside. So it's finding those, and then also at a good price. So, it's one of our big challenges. It's one of our big challenges of DAAA. So yeah, if you do have connections in San Diego with venues,
totally 2025 July.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was hard because I missed all of football. I drove 45 minutes to go watch Jackson play football. Got there, had a 10-minute conversation with someone. Josiah's spilt Gatorade all over a woman, and I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I gotta go. And then and it's hard because you put the kids in the car and they all just pass out for 45 minutes, and you're like, that's what it was. You were tired. You were so exhausted.
Yeah, it was at the end of the week. It was exhausting. Yeah. Jackson did great. I didn't coach him in football. That was the only sport I didn't coach him. We ended up combining some of the little teams or the younger teams because just at the end of the week, multiple kids start dropping off, and parents are like, hey, my kid's so tired. We're not going to play today. Right. So I ended up not coaching him anyway. But I think he enjoyed it, but
he had a blast.
Yeah.
He had a blast, but he was tired.
Yeah. So that was our experience with Baltimore and Washington D.C. Washington D.C. awesome. Traveling with kids, still tough.
Still tough.
I want to do this again when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
What are our friends down in Hillsborough? I don't know if I should say that, the Haleys.
Oh, yeah.
But they're doing all these trips right now with their kids or teenagers.
Like their youngest is like 12 or 13.
And I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A little bit. Like
100%.
You just know they're able to go everywhere, do everything.
And like we're both, I think, trying to like enjoy where we are right now. And maybe traveling right now just isn't priority. Like it's not.
Tori, I think about that a lot. Do we put our family through just situations? Like, it's not our kids. It's just not natural for kids to be doing that, going that fast. It's hard for adults to go that fast and travel and be in those scenarios.
But I don't think we travel a ton. I don't think we travel for LPA every year.
But I'm just saying, all these scenarios that they do kind of maybe have a rougher time with. I'm like, man, it's totally, I'm having a rough time. Like, this is totally overstimulating 100%. And everything. Can't imagine what they're going through. I was dying in Baltimore. I was literally like, get me home. I'm dead. Like the weather, humid, tight. Yeah. So 100% give our kids more grace in those scenarios. Totally. But naturally, I'm saying naturally, like go back like 300 years ago, families have kids. Do they go into hibernation for the first 10 years of their life? And then they begin working. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we in this modern day, go, camps, this and that.
Right.
But is that not natural, 100%. Like, because we feel like, we got to make sure our kids out of our room, sleeping, sleeping on their own, potty train, timeline, deadline. When you put a deadline on a child, you're like creating stress, or you're creating. Well,
and I think that's like hard because you've heard it said even on this podcast, like if you want to travel, you have to start from day one.
Yeah.
And you got to condition your kids, and so I really think it just all depends on what's important to you and your family is travel. Like, I think that we thought travel was really important to us, but at this point, is it really important to us? Like,
and I'm saying, how many of these things just aren't natural in that stage of life for humans,
right?
Much less children,
right?
You know, that
and maybe... I think it also then in that, like, I feel like that's a really big blanket statement that you can't, like, every kid is different. Some kids thrive. Like, you look at Jackson when he was a year old, he thrived on an airplane and traveling, and he could nap in a stroller, no problem. No, right. Like, but like Josiah, no, like he's...
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So I feel like it's so, you can't blanket statement that. It's such a, you know, and I think that we enjoy traveling, you and I, and so we want that for our family. Totally. But then at the same time, it's like, would they choose to go to the White House? No. Like, they would choose to go to Disneyland. You know,
also,
they would choose to go to Legoland.
They're fine with going down the street to the park.
Yeah, or that too. Yeah. They're cool with and so I think it was so fun. We had a great time, but it is like a once a year.
So you're going
like our friends are trying to get us to come to their house next month. And I'm like, I can't even think about putting my kids on an airplane again. I legitimately cannot fathom doing that at this time in my life.
Yeah.
Like, ask me next year.
Are you going to go to San Diego?
I need to forget about Baltimore.
Yeah.
I say no. Like, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, I can't do San Diego. But
you'll have so much FOMO.
But I have so much fun. And San Diego I love. Yeah. And that's an easy flight. If shit hits the fan, we just jump on a plane home, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could see me going maybe less for San Diego. Like, maybe you and Jackson go the whole time and I come with the littlers.
That'd be later. A riot.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably change my mind. I'll probably go.
You'll probably change your mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that was our big summer trip, and then we
also got to go.
But we'll talk about that next week.
Are we?
I think we should. That's a whole nother topic.
Wait, why? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk. Tori and me got to go on a trip a couple days later without the kids.
That was glorious.
And
traveling without kids, that's where it's at. Honestly.
Seeing the contradiction, we will just wake up and go.
Just go. But now, can you please take me to Scotland, please? That's all I want.
2 years.
No. 2 years?
2 years.
I'm still fighting for this fall. I check airline tickets for Scotland every single day.
No, 2 years. 2 years.
I want Scotland so bad, you guys. Can you please help him get me to Scotland? But okay, well then I don't know. I feel like we should end it on a better note with travel. It was a good travel, you know.
It's just tough. I
think traveling for your kids, like, that's a good, you got to teach your kids how to be worldly and like travel. But
I do. I'm just saying, I do think it goes against the natural order of things, the natural, you know, I don't know.
I look at we have friends who just backpacked through Europe with their kids. They put both their kids in a front pack and like went through Europe.
Is that did we see the Instagram version of it though?
True.
How much of that?
We all see the Instagram version. Like, you guys saw the Instagram version of our Baltimore trip.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely moments on our Baltimore trip that
go to Instagram to see the Instagram version of our life. Go to the podcast. Come to our podcast here
to hear the real
to hear the real ish.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because there was definitely, and there was one night. I mean, I want to be honest. Like, parenting is hard, and there was one night that Zach, he was gone all day long. Yeah, it was all day, and I was alone with the three of them, because I think even Jay, I don't think he was doing sports that day or something. No. I had all three of them all day long, and I got to this point in the evening where I lost my cool. Like, we all do that as parents. We all and it's humiliating and it's disheartening for me, like, to get that mad at my kids. I take it personally, and I then sit on it for the rest of the day. And there was a day that I lost my cool, and Zach came back, and I'm sure your day was long too. You know, you were dealing with people and sports and heat and all the things, and you walked in, and I was like, I gotta go. I'm gonna go downstairs, get myself a glass of wine, talk to some other moms,
which is always a good
about
thing.
This, you know. So there were definitely those moments, but then there were moments that, like, legit, I cried. What did I cry? Like, every time I go to the talent show, the fashion show, I just sit there and I bawl, and I just think how blessed we are to be a part of this community, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much fun, and
I don't go to the talent show or fashion show.
I cry every single time though. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, and then like the conversations I had with some of these women, like some women came to me and had these beautiful conversations that like I'm crying in the hallway, just like, oh my gosh, like this is so beautiful. And Zach's like, what's wrong with you?
No, what were the names again? Yeah.
Can we say it?
Yeah. Like, it was so funny.
Well, I don't know if I want to say
no,
it.
he looked over at his wife and goes, "Are you okay?"
Are you okay?
And then I looked at you. I'm like, "You're crying
We're
too."
Just both crying in the hallway because you have those connections with people, and it's like so beautiful. And oh my gosh! Well, I hear our kids yelling on the stairway.
Yeah, so we should go.
So we should probably end this. But travel with your kids if you want to. Don't travel with your kids if you don't want to.
But Washington D.C. highly recommend.
But even Baltimore was fun. Yeah. But yes, Washington D.C. Go learn some history.
Yeah.
All
right.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you like and subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts, on our YouTube page. Follow us on Instagram. Do your best. Forget the rest.